What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jimmy Talks. I'm going to be diving into a critical and complex topic: the ongoing tensions between Israel and Iran, particularly focusing on the recent missile strikes and what they meant for the region and the world. So let's just get right into it. The recent missile strikes launched by Israel into Iran was part of a large plan. These attacks weren't just random acts of aggression, but a carefully orchestrated operation. Israeli commandos infiltrated Iranian territory, utilizing advanced tactics to deploy remote drones and missile systems. The targets were not just any facilities, they were high value military installations. These strikes resulted in the deaths of several high ranking Iranian military officers and notably civilian nuclear scientists. The operation also disrupted Iran's missile defense systems and communications networks. That's how they were even able to launch the missiles in the first place. If Israel is good at one thing, it is cyber and propaganda. It is those two very, very big things that they're extremely good at. I'll give them that. So it showcased a level of precision and planning that suggests months, if not years, in the making of preparation. So this wasn't just a simple airstrike, it was a multi layered assault designed to weaken Iran's military infrastructure. We're going to get into the reason why later, but it's pretty much regime change. It's not to destroy Iran or something. I think it would be hard for Israel to do that, so I think they're going after a regime change. We'll talk about that more later, but the fact that Israel managed to infiltrate Iran, launch these attacks, and target such specific individuals and systems speaks to their intelligence capabilities and their determination to hit Iran where it hurts most. I should start saying Iran. It's a proper pronunciation, but whatever. It's military leadership and operational capacity. So Israel has a regional strategy. Let's take a look at the past 25 years so we can understand the broader context. This is where you're going to just start understanding why they're doing what they're doing right now. People have argued that Israel has leveraged its influence over the United States to systematically target its regional adversaries. And I would agree with this statement. So, this perspective points to conflicts in Iraq in 1990 and 2003, Libya, Lebanon, Syria in like the early 2010s, and now Iran as part of its broader strategy. Iraq got taken out. Saddam Hussein, supposed weapons of mass destruction, he got taken out. Libya with Gaddafi. Lebanon was also messed with. Syria had Assad get taken over. They had driven him out. And now, all these countries are destabilized. And these were all immediate threats to Israel, as well as other countries like Somalia. Egypt was also messed with. They want regime change so that they can dominate the Middle East. You know, Israel has used American military and economic power to neutralize threats and expand its influence in the Middle East, creating what some could describe as an Israeli empire at the expense of American resources and stability. Some say it's a controversial viewpoint, but I think it's just a strategic viewpoint. It's rooted in the observation that the U.S. has been deeply involved in Middle Eastern conflicts that align with Israel's security interest. From the Gulf War to the Iraq War and interventions in Libya and Syria, the U.S. has sent and spent trillions of dollars and countless lives in conflicts that, you could arguably say that this primarily served Israel's strategic goals and it did not serve America's strategic goals. Whether you agree with this or not, it's undeniable that the U.S. Israel relationship has shaped American foreign policy in the region for a very long time now, for decades. So, why did Israel strike Iran? I kind of already said that already, but let's address that key question. Why did Israel launch those strikes? Some might assume the goal was to destroy Iran's nuclear program, and that's what they're telling you on the news, but I don't think that's entirely accurate. That's a piece of the puzzle, but I'm going to tell you that I do not think that's the whole reason why. Iran's primary nuclear facilities are deeply underground, far beyond the reach of any conventional bomb or airstrikes. You would need bombs that are bigger than 10,000 pounds. You need one that are tons. So you need something huge. All right. So I don't know the exact bombs and their weights and all that, but I just want to drive the point home that some of these are like a quarter mile underground. It's crazy. So bombs, we just don't have the stuff that's going to go that far. Israel simply I mean, we do, but Israel does not. They simply lack the military capability to destroy these hardened sites without significant external support. So, obviously, that's the US. So, if denuclearizing Iran wasn't the primary objective, what was? The evidence suggests that Israel's goal is not just about nuclear weapons, it's about regime change. This is what it is. They need to be the dominant force in the Middle East. That's what they think. That's what they say. We can see this with the track record with the other countries around them that fell: Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, countless more. Somalia's even in there because there's a lot of Muslims in Africa as well. But, anyways, the missile strikes primarily targeted military installations, command structures, and key personnel, rather than nuclear production sites. The underground nuclear facility, which is Iran's most significant, was left untouched because it's beyond Israel's reach. Instead, the strikes focused on weakening Iran's military leadership, like General Salami. Yes, that's his real name. Hopefully, there is no General Prosciutto or General Ham and Turkey. Anyways, they went after key targets because it's part of regime change. Is everybody going to get together and say, all right, what are we going to do about this? Because those guys weren't together. They're all dead. Not all of them, but a lot of them were dead. So these strikes focused on weakening Iran's military leadership and their operational capabilities, which aligns with a strategy aimed at destabilizing the current regime rather than solely disrupting its nuclear ambitions. And you would say this because Iran has a much, much larger population than Israel. They have a much larger military. They have a much larger supply of missiles. They have a much larger supply of drones. So it obviously makes sense. You can't win the fight head on. So you might as well do a regime change. It's the smartest way to go about it. So this brings us to a critical point: Israel's military capacity. Israel does have a formidable reputation, but its military has severe limitations when facing a country like Iran. Israel's army is trained well, but relatively small compared to Iran's. Its air force, while advanced, lacks the size and reach to sustain a prolonged conflict with a nation as large and well armed as Iran. Iran has a significantly larger population, a massive missile arsenal, and a robust drone program. In a head-to-head conflict, Iran's sheer numbers, their numbers and resources, could overwhelm Israel's defenses easily. Besides the fact that Israel gets everything from the United States, Iran's able to produce their own. Israel's missile defense systems, such as the Iron Dome, are effective against smaller scale attacks, but they're not designed to handle the volume of missiles that Iran could launch. This was evident when Iran retaliated with missile strikes of its own following that most recent attack. I want to say it was June 12th or June 13th, something like that. Iran's response demonstrated that it has the capability to strike back hard, and Israel's defenses may not be sufficient to stop a sustained barrage of all of these. So, given these limitations, why would Israel pursue such an aggressive strategy? The answer lies in the broader objective of regime change, as I've said earlier already. By targeting their military leadership and infrastructure, Israel aims to weaken the government's ability to maintain control and project power. The hope from Israel's perspective is that this pressure could lead to internal instability, potentially paving the way for a new government more aligned with Israel's interest. However, Iran is not a country that will easily capitulate. Its leadership has shown resilience in the face of external pressures, from sanctions to military actions. Iran's response to Israel strikes, like launching missiles directly at Israeli territory, sends a clear message: it will not surrender. This creates a dangerous stalemate where neither side can fully dominate the other without significant escalation. And also, there's no more deal to be made anymore, like the nuclear deal, because that was their deterrent. Iran's deterrent was using other countries to attack Israel and funding groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. That's exactly what they did. It makes sense, too. So now that those threats are gone, what other deterrent does Iran have? Its nuclear program. So can you see how this is going to escalate? And yeah, it's not looking good for anybody. So, anyways, this is where the United States comes in. As the primary ally of Israel, the U.S. finds itself in a precarious position. Israel relies heavily on American support, like military aid, weapons, and diplomatic backing. Without this support, Israel could struggle to maintain its regional dominance. Some argue that if the U.S. were to withdraw its support, Israel would be vulnerable to its neighbors, including Iran. And it would be, which has a huge and capable military and a vast supply of missiles and drones. You got people already saying, all the conservatives, the fake conservatives, anyways, they're not real ones like me, that are going on X and Twitter, and they're like, this is Israel's war. We don't need to be involved in it. Like, well, yeah, I can agree with that, but we are involved in it because we're the ones giving them all these weapons and whatnot. Trump said that he was aware of this nuclear deal, but then he posts on Truth Social that he says he was aware, but then on other days he says he was not aware. So what's the truth? Is it just Trump can't admit that he's wrong, or did he did know about it? And I think he didn't know about it, and Israel just did it anyways, as a way to say, hey, we're going to throw ourselves at the lion, and now you have to back us up. And you people will say, oh, this is Israel's war, blah, blah, blah. No, we're involved in this, whether you like it or not, because a lot of politicians get a lot of money from certain specific interest groups and lobbying groups, and that have Israel's interests at heart. So, of course, they're going to vote for pro-Israel stuff. Let me make this clear, too. This isn't like a Jew-hating video. I don't like the way our government is bought out by foreign countries. I think that a lot of the stuff people say about Jews, I've done research on it, and basically I've just come to the conclusion that all people suck. Okay, you call me what you want to be disappointed in me if you're one of these people. It's okay, but it is what it is. But anyways, let me make that clear. This is not like a Jew-hating video. This is geopolitics focused and strategy focused. So anyways, to go back to this, the U.S. is already deeply involved in the Israel-Iran conflict. American intelligence was aware of Israel's planned strikes, and the U.S. continues to supply Israel with weapons and funding. This raises questions about the so-called nuclear deal with Iran, like I just said before I went a little bit off topic. Some critics argue that the deal was a facade, it was a backstab, designed to lull Iran into a false sense of security while Israel prepared its attacks. The strikes, in this view, were part of a broader strategy to undermine Iran while it was negotiating in good faith. I'm not defending Iran here, but that was the point of the whole deals. Okay. On the other hand, Iran is likely to pressure the U.S. to restrain Israel and prevent further escalation. The U.S. is caught in the middle, trying to balance its alliance with Israel against the need to avoid a broader regional war. No one in America wants to go on another war. I'm telling you this right now. It's been 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. People are not going to support this. They don't want to. Both Democrats and Republicans, whether you're centrist, you're right wing, you're left wing, nobody wants to go to war. No one wants to go to war for Israel. So we had nothing to do with this. It does not benefit us at all. But our governments get paid a lot of money for it, and they'll lie right to your face about it. They'll look you right in the face, act like you're fucking stupid, and tell you that, nope, you need to go to war for this foreign country, even though it doesn't benefit you at all. We're $40 trillion in debt. And, imagine if we never got involved in GWAT, the Global War on Terror. What if we had that 10 or 20, however much it costs? Let's just go with 20. How much? $20 trillion. Imagine if we had that money today and we were giving it out in loans to other countries and making interest back on it, or we spent it on ourselves on healthcare, infrastructure, and other things. 10 trillion. You can't even picture what that fucking looks like in a room because it's so much money. Imagine what we could have done with that money in this country, but instead we spent it on a foreign war that nobody to this day knows why or how it benefited us. Well, I'll tell you how it benefited a different country, because that country gives money to our politicians, and they'll send you to war because they get money from a different country. So this is a delicate situation, and the U.S. could get involved. Let's take a step back and consider the broader implications. The U.S. has already spent decades and trillions of dollars on conflicts in the Middle East. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan alone, again, they're estimated to be around $10 to $20 trillion, with little, as I said before, with little tangible benefit to the American people. Imagine what could have been done with that money. Again, guys, this is insane. It serves the interests of other nations. It's absolutely ridiculous. We should not be doing that. America needs to come first for once. The current situation with Iran risks pulling the U.S. into another costly and protracted conflict. Do we want another 20-year desert war? No, nobody does. Israel's inability to handle Iran alone means that it will likely lean on the U.S. for support because no, Israel cannot support itself militarily. They cannot. They rely on us for everything. We give them a bunch of money for guns, weapons, and missiles, missile defense systems. We give them all of it. They use American weapons. And you see Trump said it himself on Truth Social. They have American weapons. Yeah, we know exactly what they have. And it's because when you go get your paycheck and you see federal income taxes on there, that money went to a foreign country to pay for its bombs to shoot people that you don't know. This puts the U.S. in a difficult position and must decide whether to deepen its involvement in a conflict that could spiral out of control that nobody wants to be involved in, or risk straining its alliance with Israel because our politicians get a lot of money from them. So they don't want to do that because that messes with their paycheck. Even though they get a lot of money just to be a politician, like in a House and Senate, I don't even know how much it is, but they make something that's comfortable to live off of. But that's not enough for them. I always say if I were to get into politics, I can't. I can't because I'm not like them. They would kill me or blackball me. That's it. So, off topic. But anyways, where does this leave us? The path forward. The conflict, Israel-Iran, is not just a regional issue. It has global implications. The U.S. is likely to remain entangled in this struggle, whether it wants to or not. Israel's pursuit of regime change in Iran, combined with Iran's refusal to back down, creates a volatile situation that could escalate rapidly. The missile strikes and counterstrikes we've seen are just the beginning, and without careful diplomacy, the region could slide into a broader war. Does anybody want to see troops on the ground in Tehran? No. This isn't like Iraq and Afghanistan where it was like farmers with outdated AKs from the 70s and 80s, like Soviet era equipment. It's the Iranian army. They make their own missiles. They have their own drones. They have nuclear capabilities. They have a navy. They have an air force. It's not the same. Never underestimate your enemy. I believe Sun Tzu said that, and it still holds applicable. So this needs to be navigated carefully. Supporting Israel unconditionally is going to alienate other nations. They're going to look at us and say, like let's take another so-called adversary like Russia. Why would Russia want to do Ukraine and U.S. peace deals and treaties if they just seen us backstab Iran? Why would they want to do anything with us? Be like, well, we seen, you want us to do a peace deal? Okay, Trump. Act like I'm Putin right now. Okay, Trump. Yeah, we'll do a peace deal. Actually, you know what? We're not going to. I don't trust you at all because you backstabbed Iran, saying you'd give them a nuclear deal, and then you went and were totally aware of missile strikes and didn't try to stop it. So we're gonna look stupid. We need to get out of this. It's going to be another endless 20-year unwinnable conflict. So, yeah, I'm not saying Iran's the best country ever because they're not. They're pretty shady as well. They're pretty crazy as well. But you also got to ask yourself, you got to understand their point of view. You must understand your enemy as you understand yourself. Why does Iran act like this? Because they've seen what Israel has done to other countries to destabilize them. Iran's next. They're the final target, pretty much. Syria's gone. Iraq's gone. Egypt, Lebanon, they're no longer threats. Hamas has mostly been quashed. They went to Lebanon to get rid of Hezbollah. Now it's Iran. Of course they're doing this. I would do it too. It makes sense. Again, this isn't defending them. We got to understand our enemy. The challenge here is going to be finding a middle ground that prevents escalation while protecting American interests. So this is a complex and multifaceted issue. The more complex it gets, the less chance of fixing it we have. So I don't want to get involved in this. this anymore. I don't want to send money to foreign nations. I don't want to do any of this. Just completely cut it all off. So as we move forward, it's critical to ask yourself and others, what is the cost of continued U.S. involvement in these conflicts? After spending trillions on wars that yielded no benefit at all, can the U.S. afford to be drawn in another when we are $40 trillion in debt and we're on the verge of economic collapse? If this debt just keeps going up and up and up and up and up with a forever war? What does it mean for the future in the Middle East and the world if we do this, if we get involved? We're going to have to see as time goes on. Time will tell. Guys, thank you for joining me today. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Always stay true to yourself. Jimmy Talks out.